Hello, everybody, and welcome into Last Call. A pleasure to be with you today. Nathaniel Finch, that is Caden Colford. We've got a great show ahead of us. We're going to start with some men's basketball talk at the University of Indianapolis, talk about the women's team after that. Then we move on to some professional sports. How about a big weekend in the NFL? After that, some college basketball. Purdue, IU, big games there. The Pacers at the end. We've got a loaded show, but the best part, it's not just the two of us. We're going to start with Josiah Tynes. He's the point guard for UINDY's men's team on a 12-game win streak. This guy just had his career high in scoring in that win against Lewis on Saturday. Looking forward to that conversation. It's pre-recorded. We're going to go to it. It's only the first 4 minutes, though, so if you want to hear the full conversation, that'll be on YouTube, same way you're watching this. So let's get right to the interview. You guys are on such a hot start so far to the season. What's that like, you know, these last 12 games where you're beating up on everybody and by a mile each game?
It feels great, man. We put in a lot of hard work in the summer to build up to this point. So, I mean, it's a lot of hard work that's paying off. That feels great. And then just to, you know, hit our stride at the right time. We want to go into tournament play as the hottest team so we can carry over and make this run for the national tournament.
What's been the difference this year compared to the previous 2 years?
I mean, our teams are always close, but there's something about this team. We only care about winning. Nothing else really matters as long as we win. So I feel like that's the biggest thing. Everybody on the roster, from coaching staff to players, the main goal is to win.
You've been with Coach Corsaro since his start in 2020. How has he kind of evolved over the last couple of years to where he is now and leading the team?
Yeah, I've known him when he was at Purdue Fort Wayne too. He was recruiting me there. Just for him, like, you know, he's an intense guy. Real passionate about the program, real passionate about winning. He's been more patient this year, and which is, you know, for him, he knows it's a step in the right direction. And it's given us a lot more confidence to go out there and not worry about making mistakes and just going out there and having fun and playing the best basketball we can.
Did you come to UIND because of Corsaro when he joined?
I did.
That's awesome. That's good to see. So take me into last week. We'll start on Thursday. You guys are at UIS. The closest game you've played in about 2 or 3 months at this point. What was that like at the end of the game, you know, when you're down at the under 4 media timeout and you guys just found a way to win? I
mean, Coach Corsaro, man, he makes practices real tough. We do these things called 4-minute games a lot. And it's just 4 minutes on the clock. Sometimes we're down, sometimes we're up trying to protect the league. So, we're prepared for those types of games. We've been itching for one, like I said last time, because we've been blowing teams out. And those games are fun. We like those. We enjoy those type of games, so it was good.
And I'd asked you this at the game, but when you're in the moment and you're on the free throw line, or that shot that you had in the corner, your three from the corner when you guys are down, what's it like taking that shot? You know, what was the pressure like on you?
I mean, that's what you come to college basketball for, man. You see on TV, you know, people hitting big shots, and you put in all the work in the summer when people aren't watching, extra shots for those moments, so that you're confident and ready to step in and knock it down. So, I mean, nothing extra, just no added pressure. I'm built for that type of moment. So,
was the celebration a little bit different post game than other games?
Yeah, I mean, it was, for us, it was still an ugly win. No win is a bad win, so we enjoyed it. But you know, we could have cleaned some things up on the defensive end. We hang our hat on the defensive end, so it was an ugly win. But we found a way to get an ugly one.
So you guys hang your hat on the defensive end. You're the #1 defensive team in the conference, but you also have the #2 offense in the conference. What's that like to be able to have success on both ends?
Yeah, it really starts with defense. Our team, if we get stops, we're able to run. It's hard to run when you're taking it out the rim every time. So our philosophy is, if we get stops, run, push it down the court, and offense is going to be easy. We have talented enough players that offense will take care of itself.
So enough about all this. How about on Saturday when you hit your career high in scoring? What was that like knowing, you know, does that set you up well confidence-wise? You know, you can score just about anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know that 19 was my career high, but I mean, I just felt good going into warm-up. Again, just coming off the game on Thursday, my coaches, teammates telling me, like, if you're open, knock it in, play with confidence, step in the shots, like that type of stuff. Anybody's liable to do that on any given night. That's why one thing I like about our team on Lewis. It just happened to be my night, so I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Welcome back to Last Call. Nathaniel Finch, Caden Colford, a new face. His name is Jace Hodge, and we are here and ready to talk about some men's basketball. So you just heard that Josiah Tynes interview. If you want to catch the rest of it, that's on YouTube, so go ahead and catch the rest of that interview. But as far as the conversation now, UINDY men's team. My goodness, guys, they are so good. And Jace, you were at the game at Lewis. I was at the game at UIS on Thursday. It's been an impressive run for these guys.
Yeah, 12 wins in a row for the men's basketball team. How about that? 10th nationally ranked was. They won 81-70 at Lewis on Saturday to move to 18-2 on the year.
I love the mentality this team has, right? We were in Illinois Springfield on Thursday, and wow, what a game. It was so gritty from start to finish. In the fourth quarter, we were holding our breath a little bit. I mean, we haven't seen them play a close game like they did. Both teams, neither could really get anything going, and it was really just who's diving on loose balls, who's getting the boards, right? And it was UINDY that came out with the win.
And with that Thursday game, they started early, was like a 13-point lead early in that first half, and then just watched it evaporate. Really, you heard Josiah talk about they just had an ugly win. They played some ugly basketball for a while. But then you get to the under 4 media timeout. Like he said, Coach says, hey, we've practiced 4-minute wars all year. This is nothing new. We're just down. They were down by 4 or 5 points at the time, and all of a sudden they go on a 9-1 run and they win the game. I mean, that was an impressive win on Thursday.
Man, I love that terminology, 4-minute wars, because like I said, that's exactly what it was. It was a war all the way throughout, and then they come out in their next game, and against Lewis, they looked pretty solid.
They looked really good in the first half, especially 41-28 was the score at halftime. Second half, they just coasted the rest of the way home. Tynes was phenomenal. Saw him there in the interview, 19 points, 4 rebounds for him. So was Bingham, 18 points for himself, also 4 rebounds. Just a phenomenal team win there.
Tell me about Bruno Williams. His first game back, he's from Lewis, transferred, was an all-conference player there. First game back, how was the feel for him? I mean, yeah, I see the stats, but what did he look like out there?
You could tell there at the end of the game, once the game was ending, when Corsaro took Bruno Williams out, they hugged each other. You could see some emotion there on Williams' face. So obviously pretty emotional. Played there for 3 years. You know, it was a long time there, and he came over to UINDY this year, and he's been a great asset to the team.
One thing about Bruno Williams is I love the prowess with which he plays on defense. He's really a leader of that defense, an elite defense at that. And as we talk over and over again, the defense is what creates their offense, and there's a reason they're so highly ranked.
Big win for them against Lewis. They're 112 now. They're continuing to jump up the poll. They're ranked 10th in the last media poll, so we'll see what it is when it gets released tomorrow afternoon. But I'm excited to see how this team can just keep rolling. How about this upcoming weekend, though? Thursday against Truman State. Truman, not quite the same Truman that we've seen the last couple years. They're not a highly ranked team. They're only 10-11. Really graduated some guys. However, they just upsetted UMSL, who's number 17 in the country. So Truman's going to come in ready to fight. It should be a good one. What do you guys think about that?
That's the thing about the GLVC. We talked to Coach a couple weeks ago. The thing about the GLVC, there's no easy games. There's no nights off. Everyone comes to play each and every night, and it's no different with Truman State.
Especially with Truman State beating UMSL. UMSL's a really tough team to beat. They were ranked 17th, like you said. UINDY just beat them recently, too. But Truman State, they will fight for every game. They are always close, and they'll give UINDY a run for their money.
That'll be a great game Thursday night at Nickerson Hall. It'll be on UINDY TV. The broadcast to start at 7:30 or in that area. It'll be after the women's game, so be sure to tune into that. This UINDY men's team, they're fun to watch. You do not want to miss it, so tune in Thursday. We also have a game on Saturday afternoon for UINDY against William Jewell. Should be a fun weekend, and you can catch both of them right here on UINDY TV. Let's switch gears, guys. How about the UINDY women's team? Not the same story of success over the weekend at Lewis.
No, they lost 68-53, but they have won 3 of their last 4 games. They've been on a bit of a roll recently, still 4th in conference play, but was a tough loss. They couldn't really get the offense going for certain times, but still, there's some things they can take away from that. They can feed Sadie Hill more, they can do other things, but tough loss there.
I mean, yeah, not seeing anybody in double figures. It's a little bit of a red flag, but this team, talking to Coach Mark Mitchell last week, he said that they're a selfless team. Everybody knows their role, and everybody plays their role well, so I'm looking for them to get back on track.
It would be more encouraging if you've got, your leading scorer has 7 points if it's a win, but you only put up 53 and, you lose by 15 the way you did. You kind of, like you said, it is a red flag that nobody was able to really put up some points on the offensive side of things. So, yeah, it's sweet that you've got 3 players all leading the game in scoring, but it's only with 7 points. You want to see that at 11, 12, 13 points. So I think that's the one thing, though. They need to do a better job getting some points up on the board because you're not going to win many games in the GLVC putting up 53.
Not at all. And Lewis went on a 24-2 run that spanned the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter. That really got them the advantage because UIndy was winning 25-23, but then that run put Lewis way ahead of the game, and UIndy just couldn't come back at that point.
What led to the run? What was different from that beginning?
Lewis was playing some really strong defense, and UIndy was putting up some tough shots that kind of hard to make. They were making some of them at some points, but UIndy just couldn't get the shots they wanted.
Tell you what, though, Caden, you and I were at the UIS game on Thursday. They looked very good against the Prairie Stars. A big win for them there, and still was it 20+ turnovers, and yet they won pretty handily. So, it was encouraging in that regard that they're still able to put up points in that game. But you got to do better against Lewis. Yeah,
we saw their personalities coming out of that game. They walked off the court with a win. But if you were to put a camera on them, it wouldn't necessarily look as such. That they were coming off, they're kind of disappointed with their performance, and then they come out in this game, kind of a similar story, just couldn't get over the hump.
Yeah, but they got Truman State as well on Thursday. Truman State, really good team in the conference, 11-2 in conference play, one of the best teams in the GLVC. But UIndy at home, a lot different than they are away. What we've seen, UIndy's a lot better at home, so I'm sure they can give Truman State a run for their money on Thursday.
And Jace, this is a team that started really slow, right? But of late, they're really starting to come on. How about the run that they've gone on for UIndy? So, they didn't have the most promising game on Saturday. I still feel like they've got, a good chance, especially at home, to be in any game.
Yeah, and then, coming into the year, whole new coaching staff, it's always hard to get used to that, Always going to start out slow, getting used to the new plays, new coaching staff, new everybody, really. But I think recently they've been a lot better, and this team can really give any team a run for their money.
They're going to be playing Truman State this upcoming Thursday. It's going to be our first ever all-women's broadcast for UIndy TV. I'm not going to be a part of it. You two gentlemen, we're not going to be a part of it. So we're going to have an entire women's crew from top to bottom. Really excited for this, so make sure to tune into that one. That will be at 5:30 on Thursday. They also, again, play William Jewell. That'll be at 1 o'clock on Saturday. So a couple home games. Come out and watch them, but if you can't, UIndy TV will have the coverage for both of those. When we return, we've got the NFL coming up next. Plenty of great games to talk about. By plenty, I mean 2. There's only 2 games. We only have 1 more the rest of the season. Let's take advantage of it. More next on Last Call.
Award-winning news coverage. Brought to you by ethical journalists that care about you. We have you covered on crime, latest on sports, and the best in entertainment. This is UIndy TV News.
Welcome back to Last Call. Nathaniel Finch, Caden Colford. We thank Jace Hodge for his time and some analysis from that last game. Again, he was at the game, so we thought it'd be a good idea to talk to him. But time to transition. How about some NFL talk? We've only had, we went into the weekend with just 3 games left on the NFL slate. 2 of them have passed. Super Bowl's in 2 weeks, but we finally know who's going to play. We know who's going to be set. And, if you look back about 2 months ago, you can kind of put your finger on these 2 teams.
Yeah, coming into it, right, the Eagles and the 49ers wasn't a super fun game, but it really just an unlucky game for the Niners. That is Brock Purdy going down the opening drive with an elbow injury. That's almost just an act of God at that point.
Yeah, let's take a look at those highlights from the 49ers game. It wasn't quite the game that the Niners wanted. Eagles are just that good. How about that? A big 31-7 win.
No, yeah, they deserve it. Don't let me say an act of God distract you from this team's talent. You see the play, see Devontae Smith going up and grabbing that ball.
What a catch. You can see there it popped out. They ended up, we saw after the fact that it was not a catch, but they ruled it a catch, and they went up and snapped the ball quick enough. Play later, Miles Sanders gets in for a touchdown. So, it looked like a good catch. Didn't quite catch it. Still, applaud the effort by that man. I don't care if it hit the ground or not. That was impressive.
For sure. And the entire team, up and down, especially the run game. How about Miles Sanders with 2 touchdowns, Boston Scott with a touchdown, Jalen Hurts also with a touchdown. Can't ask for a much better rushing offense.
No, it was pretty impressive that, if you tell me going into the game that Jalen Hurts is going to have just like 0 passing touchdowns, are you kidding me? I'm going to say, oh, no way, they lost that game. But the fact that he did that, they still put up 31, it was very impressive. The game that he had managing, they didn't ask to put everything on his shoulders. He didn't go out there and throw the ball 60 times. you know, and have all these throws. It was just run the ball like this one here, and it works because their running game was on point against the best defense in the nation.
And they came out, I mean, you could tell from the open that they were out to get this one. Offense, defense looked great. I mean, if you're the 49ers, even with Brock Purdy, I don't know how you're getting past this team.
Yeah, and it really was poor to see Brock Purdy get hurt early in that one. You see on this play, Josh Johnson then got hurt, had a concussion, had to leave the game, so Purdy had to come back in. Kyle Shanahan said that he still wasn't able to really throw a football, so the fact that he was able to come in and by necessity had to finish that game, and they even tried lining up McCaffrey at quarterback for a play. But Purdy, if you would have told me he would have started the game and finished the game and did not throw an incompletion, I'd tell you that the Niners won that game. But 4 of 4, didn't do a whole lot, couldn't do a whole lot, and there's a big reason why they lost.
Yeah, I mean, only 3 receptions for Debo and Kittle, and those are 2 of your biggest weapons if you're the Niners. And in all honesty, it's not their fault, right? You have all these weapons but don't have anybody to get it to those weapons. But the guy that really tried to pull one out for his team was Christian McCaffrey. 15 rushes, 84 yards, and a touchdown on the day. But you can only do so much when you're just one man.
And you see tempers flaring here at the end of the game. The game was out of hand. The game was over. Trent Williams got a little too upset on that one. Tossed down an eagle, and, man, it was I mean, look at that. Levi Wallace had no shot.
Understandable from a 49ers standpoint, but nonetheless, Eagles are going to walk away with this one 31-7.
Let's switch gears. How about we talk about the other game in the NFL? It was a little bit more exciting. It was a 3-point game. Kudos to the man who had a 3.5-point spread. Made a little bit of money on this one. But the Eagles and the Chiefs, and we'll get to that one here in a bit, but not the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl now, because the Chiefs got this win against the Bengals. Joey B tried his best, just couldn't do it.
And, I mean, he had a game, right? He was slinging it all game, but he was under pressure. 5 sacks on the day for the Chiefs. But note that the Bengals are out 2 or 3 starting offensive linemen, so big sway there.
23-20, the final score, and we'll see how we got here. What a catch there by MVS. And I mean, it was just a back-and-forth game. Started all Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. It started all Chiefs. Took the Bengals about 20 minutes to finally get up on the board, but then it was back and forth. We see Sam Hubbard picking up a mistake from Mahomes. Kudos to this man, though. Patrick Mahomes, the way he played in this game on a high ankle sprain. I mean, look, it's hard to go chase after. You see how he kind of landed kind of weird. Now he's limping around. What a warrior he was in this contest.
And he also had a limited roster on his side, right? A couple wide receivers out. His top receiver this game was Marquez Valdes-Scantling. How about him? 117 yards on 10 receptions and a touchdown. He really, really showed up when he needed to.
Pretty impressive. Mahomes was able to throw for 326 and 2 touchdowns with that ankle sprain. You got to imagine, give him 2 weeks, he's going to be pretty healthy for that Super Bowl, and it's going to be exciting to see how this Chiefs offense just continues to go. I mean, you only put up 23 points in this game. It was a bit more of a defensive battle. Really came down to the end here. You see with Joe Burrow had to take a sack. Chris Jones, out of his mind. His best season as a pro.
And the crazy thing about this was his first postseason sack. Took place in this game, and he really just showed out from start to finish. He was the guy that just gave the Bengals nightmares throughout.
You see here Mahomes thrown down late. It was a penalty, kind of set up an extra 15 yards, set up in field goal range, set up an easy, well, I say easy, nothing's easy about a 40-plus yarder, but I mean, we see here with this field goal attempt, Harrison Butker, nothing but money.
Yeah, that was his 3rd on the day, and Osai, a lot of people were giving him a lot of stuff for his penalty right there. He had a great game aside from that 3 tackles, 2 assists, but inevitably it leads to the field goal there that give the Chiefs the win.
23-20, the final score there. So give me your pick. It's way too early. We'll talk about it more next week. We'll get a whole preview next week, but who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Man, I like the Eagles. They have weapons all over the floor. The defense is solid. I'm not betting against Jalen Hurts, not in the playoffs.
Man, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm leaning with you. The Eagles opened up in Vegas as a 2-point favorite. Chiefs' money line is at plus 110. It's not often that you go in the playoffs and the Chiefs are underdogs. And I don't know. It's just you hate to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but the Eagles roster is just better. It's just better up and down.
I think it's going to be a great game. No matter what, might go down in history as one of the best. It's going to be a fireworks show, to say the least, but I do think it's going to be the Eagles to pull it out.
Next week's show will give you a full preview of that Super Bowl. Looking forward to it, get in depth on some of the matchups and what all is going to go on there, and maybe a little bit of gambling picks as well. Can't wait for that. But we've got the Super Bowl matchup set. That's all we can say for now. Looking forward to see how things shake out in the future. Let's move on. How about college basketball? Purdue and IU, they are rolling, both teams, and it sets up a beautiful matchup in Assembly Hall on Saturday. We'll get to that next here on Last Call.
Here on 88.7 WICR.
88.7 The Diamond, the only jazz and classical station in Indianapolis, completely led by the students of the University of Indianapolis. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn app, FM radio, HD radios, or even on our website at wicronline.org, a different kind of public radio.
Back here for Last Call, Nathaniel Finch, Caden Colford, some college basketball talk. It's Purdue with a big win yesterday. They were voted in the AP poll as the unanimous #1 for the first time that we've had a unanimous #1 this season. They're the best team in the nation for a reason. Let's take a look at why. A big game that they had, a big win for them. The final score there is 77-61 against Izzo's squad.
And the story of this game, almost a one-man band, Zach Edey, all of 7'4". This guy, almost a lock for National Player of the Year in college basketball.
This is the third time that he's had a career high in scoring against Michigan State, and he says after the game it's because they played man, and Izzo is kind of set in his ways. They're going to keep playing man-to-man, and when you put one guy on Zach Edey, you're never going to win that.
You know what? Zach Edey had a quote after the game. When you start tasting your own blood, you kind of get going a little bit. You know that every team wants to play physical with this guy, but Zach Edey, not only does he embrace it, he thrives through it. We saw it this game. I mean, think his field goal percentage is sky high, right? Top 20 in the NCAA. And just imagine 30 or 40% of those shots are on 2 or 3 defenders. So
yeah, it is wild. He gets used to playing through contact because he has no choice. Doesn't get a ton of foul calls. You'll hear Painter talk about it quite a bit. You'll hear Edey himself talk about how these Big Ten refs, they don't always call these fouls. They're letting him play a little bit on the inside, and a lot of guys get away with hacking the big man a bit. So he just has to get used to playing with all of this physicality. It sure doesn't matter. I mean, this guy is a beast on the inside. 38 points, 13 rebounds. Doesn't get any better than that. When you have that recipe, you're going to win most games you go into.
No, but I like Matt Painter's team. I like him a lot. It's not just the Zach Edey show. They have a lot of guys. They have 2 true freshmen in Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, who are also dogs. I like Braden Smith as a game manager, and I think the entire team as a unit, I mean, I don't know if anyone in the country beats them.
How about Jenkins Jr. hitting a couple big threes, one at the end of the first half? I mean, they've got a pretty oddly deep roster that didn't seem so deep at the beginning of the year. This was not the expectation going into the season. Everyone said it was going to be IU's year, but it's looking like the Boilers right now. Hoosiers, though, they're not having a bad season themselves. A big win that they had against Ohio State in Assembly Hall on Saturday. They will. They're going to have a big game against Maryland this week, and then it's all Purdue and IU on Saturday. But how about this one? You see Trace Jackson Davis, a big game for him. IU, they get the win, 86-70. Yeah, IU has a big guy themselves right here at TJD out of Center Grove. I got to watch this guy in high school, and if you would have told me his sophomore year that he was going to be playing for IU at this level, I would have told you you're crazy. But this guy has made massive strides in his game. I love watching his play. He's so explosive, and that's really just IU's brand of basketball this year. He's made massive improvements since the last year or two since being with IU. Heck, you could even say within the season he's been improving. It's been impressive to see the trajectory that this guy is on. And, as someone who can't wait for this Purdue and IU game on Saturday, he's going to be a big factor for IU. And, you've got a couple banged up guys on IU. You've got, not quite the best roster, but this guy is carrying 24 points, 3 assists against Ohio State. And, that's one of his lower games. He's put up a couple points he was the Big Ten Player of the Week last week, had a couple points ahead of 30. He's been on a tear. He's got a guy next to him, and Jalen Hood-Schifino. This guy, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists versus Ohio State, and guess what? He had a stomach bug. Flu game. And Mike Woodson told him after the game, he's like, hey, some of my best games playing was when I was sick. And, sure enough, Hood-Schifino put up some great numbers there. He had a great game, probably his best as, an overall stat line throughout. So it was impressive to see he did all that while he was sick. That's wild.
You know, he's developing too as a player. I mean, as a point guard, starting to really lead this IU offense. And at home, he can be really scary. When him and Trace get going together, that's showtime.
And he's going to be at home on Saturday, Assembly Hall, to welcome the Boilermakers, the first of 2 matchups this season. Caden, what are you looking for in this one?
Man, it's going to be between these 2 guys right here, right? Trace Jackson and Zach Edey. One thing that I want to know, is Trace Jackson going to be tasked regarding Zach Edey? Because we look back on the matchup last season, Trace Jackson picked up 4 early fouls, was out for the rest of the game. And Rob Fennessy was the one who picked up that team at Assembly Hall and took them to victory. But Rob Fennessy is not on this team this year.
And you know, D1, D2, a little different, obviously. But when we were at that UINDY game, Kendrick Cho, the big man on the inside, against the second best big man in the conference in Jack Weber, and he had 2 early fouls, a quick third one in the second half, and was basically neutralized that game. You wonder if it's going to be similar to that, right? Where, you know, if one of these 2 guys gets a little too physical, gets into foul trouble, that's going to spell a big difference for this game.
For sure. One key fact, the X factor in this game, it's at Assembly Hall. And IU plays at home better than almost any team plays at home. When they get going, let's say Trace hits a good shot, Hood Shafino hits a big shot, that place explodes, and they're not quiet throughout the game no matter what. So,
Jay Saj, we had him on earlier. He said before the show that he thought IU was going to win this one by 10 points. I do not know about that one. I've got Purdue to win the game, and you know I convinced him to make a bet that, you know, Purdue plus 10. I don't know why he thought that'd be a good idea, but
that's the IU faithful for you, though, right? You can't say that he's a fake fan. He's with the crimson and white through and through. You know what? I might take IU in this one, too, just because they're at Assembly Hall. Purdue might have the better roster, but they have thousands in attendance that are the 12th man, or, well, the 6th man on that team, I should say, and it's hard to go into Assembly Hall and win. I don't care who you are, number 1 in the country or not.
I'm going to go with the team that has the better coach and the better player, the National Player of the Year, the better record, the better roster, the better ranking, the better everything. I'm going to go, I mean, IU's going to put up one heck of a fight, and I cannot wait to see this game, but give me Purdue.
And I can't blame you for going that way. I really can't. I can see it going either way. I think it's going to be just like the Super Bowl, firework matchup. It's going to be high energy. Both of these teams, maybe some bad blood. It's going to be high tension throughout.
IU's now ranked. They're ranked 21. They're going to continue climbing up the poll, I'm sure, especially if they can win on Saturday. So it should set up a great matchup. When we come back, the Pacers, a little disappointing finish for them in Memphis yesterday. We'll talk about that here on Last Call.
Award-winning news coverage. Brought to you by ethical journalists that care about you. We have you covered on crime, latest on sports, and the best in entertainment. This is UINDY TV News.
Back here, Last Call, Nathaniel Finch, Caden Colford, and we've got a conversation in the NBA. How about the Pacers? They're on a losing skid. They're not playing all too hot. Tyrese Halliburton currently is out. You know, I saw him warming up the other night. It seems like he could be back in the near future. If not, you know, the end of this week, probably next week. We're also waiting to see if he will be voted as an all-star or not. But they're without him. They got to figure out a way to win. And they were ahead for the majority of this first half. Things looked great for the Pacers. Ended up losing by 12.
You know, it was a great game for Ben Mathurin, though. 27 points and 8 rebounds on the day. He was the one thing that really pushed these Pacers forward. And they went into the half up by 12. But in Memphis, it was Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. that stepped up big for the Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson with 28, 8, and 5 blocks. You'll see a lot of those on Ben Mathurin here. And Ja Morant with 27, 15, and 10 on his own. So when those two are on like that, there's not many teams that are going to pull that one out.
There's a lot of promise for this team, though. Once Halliburton can come back and he can play with Mathurin, who, you know, is this 3 or 4 straight games with 26 or more points, he is going off right now. I mean, once you can get everyone fully healthy, Miles Turner, we'll definitely be talking about him. This could be a fun team to see late in the season, but right now it's not good.
And Miles Turner, he talks about him. He just agreed to an extension, right? 2-year, $58 million contract after he was almost going to go to the Lakers. So
yeah, pretty crazy turnaround. How about him? He's got to be happy with that. Signing the check, making a big bag. And congrats to him. Hopefully the Pacers can turn things around. That will do it for the show. We talked about plenty. Thanks to Josiah Tynes, to Jay Hodge, to Caden Colford. How about next week? Tune in again next Monday night. Last call.